We are obsessed with the idea of love, with the idea of falling in love, with the notion that love is something that happens to us. But what if we have fundamentally misunderstood what love even is? This is the challenge posed by the psychoanalyst Erich Fromm in his book The Art of Loving. He observed that a lot of the popularly held conceptions of love are harmful and even toxic. See, we tend to think that love is something we can attain if we only find the right person for us, our Cinderella or Prince Charming. Thus, love is rendered to us as an object that exists outside of ourselves. And as a consequence of regarding love as an object, we similarly view the people who we think will grant us love as objects, or rather as commodities. Thus, we implicitly assume that love itself is easy, and it is only finding the right person, the right object, the right commodity that is difficult. We then come to think of relationships as a commodity exchange, where you give to me and I give to you. This attitude is reflected in our use of the phrase, the dating market. And in this market we try to make ourselves into the most desirable commodities we can. We sculpt our bodies, pursue fame and money, all in the hope of becoming desirable, of being a valuable commodity. There is no better illustration of our contemporary view of love than the prevalence of dating apps, where we present ourselves as disembodied images, judged purely on our appearance and the symbols of status that accompany us, expensive clothing brands, a nice car, and so on. We thus assume a passive relationship with love. We wait for it to happen to us, or rather, we wait to find a suitable commodity that we can engage in an exchange with. Quote, "Our whole culture is based on an appetite for buying, on the idea of a mutually favourable exchange. Modern man's happiness consists in the thrill of looking at the shop windows, and in buying all that he can afford to buy, either for cash or in installments. He or she looks at people in a similar way. For man an attractive girl, and for the woman an attractive man, are the prices they are after." End quote. Fromm argues that this attitude leads us to regard other people as a means to an end, rather than as an end in themselves. He argues that if we are to find love, true love that goes beyond commodity exchange, then love is a skill we need to cultivate, an art form we need to learn. But what does it mean to love? According to Fromm, love rests on 4 central pillars: care, responsibility, respect, and knowledge. Care concerns more than just shielding someone from harm, but also includes the desire for your loved ones to grow, to find fulfillment and pursue what is meaningful to them. The greatest example of caring love is the mother who loves the growing child rather than just the infant. For though the infant may be delightful in an idealized sense, the growing child is constantly changing and developing. In the end, the child will even leave the mother, and in the nature of a caring love, she desires for her child, her greatest treasure, to leave her. For she cares for the child and wants it to grow for its own sake, even though it means she will lose what is the most precious to her. Hand in hand with care goes responsibility, but not in the sense of duty or compulsion. Rather, responsibility is a voluntary act of responding to the needs of others, to see to it that they are met. This can be physical needs, but more often the needs are psychological. The need to be seen, the need to be heard, the need to be understood and recognized for who one is. This leads us to the 3rd pillar, namely respect. To see a person as they are, to recognize them and their unique traits and abilities for themselves. In short, to respect someone is to see them as an end in themselves, rather than as a means for you to take advantage of. But to respect someone, to recognize them and see them for themselves, is not possible without the 4th pillar, knowledge. To truly know someone is to seek to understand them, how they see themselves, the world and everything around them. To know is to recognize when pain is what is hidden behind expressions of anger, that fear is what motivates emotional distance. Knowing someone means to seek to see past the surface and into the depths of their heart. Only through these 4 pillars can we learn to let go of immature love that is rooted in a compulsive need for the other person, and move to a more mature form of love that is unconditional. But no love is possible without self-love, which should not be confused with selfishness or egotism. Those things are not love. Rather, self-love rests on the same 4 pillars we just discussed. To have self-love, we must care for ourselves, desire growth in ourselves as an end in ourselves. If we desire growth in the form of money, success, power, or fame, then we regard growth in ourselves as a means to an end, and this is not love. We must be responsible for ourselves, but not in the stoic fashion of rugged self-preservation. To be responsible for ourselves, we must be responsive to our own needs, to the voice in our heads that, if we learn to listen to it, communicate why we are anxious or distressed. We must respect that voice, respect ourselves, learn to accept our flaws and limitations, as well as recognize our talents and abilities. And finally, we must strive to know ourselves, to understand ourselves in all our glorious imperfection. Only once we have achieved self-love are we capable of loving others. For if we love others without loving ourselves, then their love acts as a compensation for our own inability to love ourselves. As such, our relationship with another becomes a means to an end, not an end in itself. Because we can only learn to recognize others as themselves and love them in and of themselves if we first learn to recognize and love ourselves in and of ourselves. But even when possessing self-love, loving is no simple task. According to Fromm, to truly love requires the cultivation of 3 properties: discipline, concentration, and patience. By discipline, Fromm does not merely mean a rigid routine that one sticks with no matter what. Instead, what he means is an endeavor you willingly enter into, and that you even find enjoyable. But most importantly, he means not to indulge in escapist behavior that brings only temporary pleasure. By concentration, Fromm means the ability to be present and to truly listen both to oneself and others. This understanding of concentration is fairly similar to what we might call mindfulness, when we are attentive to each action we take and every sensation we feel. Be it going for a walk, listening to music, talking with a friend, we must practice being fully present in that moment. Fromm describes concentration as a kind of relaxed alertness and attentiveness to oneself. Patience, however, is perhaps the most important skill of all. Fromm uses a child learning to walk as an illustration of what he means by patience. Quote, "It falls, falls again, and yet it keeps on trying, improving until one day it walks without falling." End quote. Because the simple truth of the matter is that we will fall, we will fail in love. The important thing is for us to keep on getting back up, to keep trying, not to lose patience and give in to the frustration of not finding love, but to instead keep on cultivating in ourselves the capacity to love, to give love. For only if we are capable of giving love will we be able to receive it. Now, for many of you, Fromm's idea about love will appear foreign and even strange. I invite you to think about why that is. As discussed at the beginning of this video, Fromm believes that it is because our view of love comes to reflect the consumerist tendencies of our time. Quote, "Man's happiness today is to be found in having fun. Having fun lies in the satisfaction of consuming and taking in commodities, sights, food, drinks, cigarettes, people, lectures, books, movies. All are consumed, swallowed. The world is one great object for our appetite." End quote. Thus we come to see people as objects to satisfy our never-ending hunger for consumption. Similarly, we regard ourselves as commodities to be exchanged for other commodities. Quote, "Modern man has transformed himself into a commodity. He experiences his life energy as an investment with which he should make the highest profit, considering his position and the situation on the personality market. He is alienated from himself, from his fellow men, and from nature. His main aim is profitable exchange of his skill, knowledge, and of himself, his personality package, with others who are equally intent on fair and profitable exchange. Life has no goal except the one to move, no principle except the one of fair exchange, no satisfaction except the one to consume." End quote. To learn to love is to unlearn everything we have been taught about love. To learn to love is to learn to see other people, to see love as an end in itself. To learn to love is to learn to truly live. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, as it really helps the channel out. As always, I'll leave recommendations for further viewings in the description. I particularly recommend the video "Our Conception of Love is Messed Up" by Olivia Sun. I also recommend actually reading The Art of Loving by Erich Fromm. It is written in an accessible language and is only 123 pages long, so it won't take you long to finish. Anyway, this is all I have for you today. Take care and I'll see you soon. Bye.